The day is here. Arsenal versus Real Madrid in the Champions League quarter-final. It is going to be a special, special night. We hope. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time on the Gooner Talk. Indeed, it is a special day. Hopefully, it will turn into an even more special day. Just the atmosphere, the occasion, the feeling, the anticipation, all of those emotions are running kind of wild, at the moment. And there is a huge amount of excitement, of course, for what to expect, going forwards. And I think that a lot of us can empathize with that feeling, can certainly get on board with that feeling. And for those that are going to be in attendance this evening, I sincerely hope that you can help in creating one of the most amazing nights at the Emirates. If you're going, please, as I said yesterday, get there early. Talk a little bit more about that later on today in our news show, because it has, and our slides, because it has some bearing to some of the stories we're going to talk about today. But yeah, just in general, if you're able to contribute in any way possible, now is the day to do that. Don't sit quietly. If you aren't able to make much noise, if you aren't able to stand, do what you can. Just do whatever you are able to do the absolute maximum that you're capable of doing so, because it's a very, very, very special day and a great opportunity for Arsenal to do something quite great as well. So yes, let's jump though to the chat box. Good morning to those joining us in the morning shows. Discussion group, Glenn, Ken, Blackshine, Red Star, Stephen, Barry, Tom, James. We've got Blackshine and Rancid and Stevie and Matt G, Martin, Jitty, Rowan, Martin and Hoodie Gooner, Gooner 76, Knowledge and Grantley Poos, Carrie-Anne, Amira, Morgie, NSW and Scouse, Gooner, Brad, Damien, Pat, Carlton, Paul, Loga, Shari. We've got Olawale, we've got Brian and Carl, we've got Steve and Amberley, we've got Natty, we've got Dunn and Afsar, we've got Brendan, Maniek, Fizzy, Dave, plenty of you guys and girls in the chat box this morning. So many of you, I can't read all your names out, I'm sorry, but thank you, all of you, for listening and tuning in. It is very much appreciated as we talk about what is going to be hopefully a great day. But let's kick on with today's stories first, shall we? I think that's probably the best way to start things. We begin with yesterday evening's game. I was actually in attendance yesterday for Arsenal's under-21s. That's why I couldn't go to Ancelotti's press conference that we will talk about in a little bit. But I was in attendance for Arsenal's under-21s match against Derby County. It was an entertaining game, that's for sure. 2-2 on the night. Gutting end to the fixture. Arsenal went 1-0 down in the first half. They were 1-0 down at half-time. Second half, they got one back. Brilliant goal from, I think it was Louis Copley, got the equaliser. And then, of course, we saw Harriman and Noose also. No, it wasn't Copley, it was Rosiak. Rosiak scored, and it was a brilliant touch and finish. And Harriman and Noose also with a very Thierry Henry-esque finish. Had the opportunity to speak to a few of the lads after the game as well. And, you can really tell that even despite their very much younger players and they're youthful and they've got a long career ahead of them, we all hope. They're still very grounded. They still really understand kind of what's ahead of them and not getting too excited and doing what needs to be done, for their careers, which was great to kind of experience that on a youth game. I've not really had that experience before. But, it was a really entertaining game. Controversial end, as I say, because it was 2-2 after an 88th minute Derby equaliser, and Arsenal actually won a penalty in added time the referee gave on the pitch. And then he went over to his linesman and spoke to the linesman, and the linesman decided that it wasn't a penalty, and they overturned the penalty decision. It's fair to say that Mehmet Ali on the sidelines was fuming, absolutely fuming with that decision, and one that we'd never really seen before, especially the days after VAR. It was kind of crazy. So if the ref's given the decision on the pitch, it's kind of usually what we tend to see, what he sticks with. But the linesman felt that the Derby player had got the ball. So the PGMOL chaos extending down to our youth side, it seems. Absolutely crazy. Moving though to Mikel Arteta's press conference, and it was, of course, it was a busy afternoon It's fair to say. I had a really busy day today yesterday. I left the house about left straight after the pod, went and got a haircut, came home, left straight away after changing to the press conference. It was rammed. I've never seen so many people in the press conference before. Not as busy as I saw the Emirates, though. Later on, I saw pictures of the Emirates Stadium press conference, and it looked absolutely mental in there. So it's fair to say that I'll be getting down to the Emirates earlier than I usually do tonight to ensure that I got a seat. Because it looked absolutely rammed in there. So yeah, that's one to think about, getting down there as early as you can. And I extend that to you guys as girls as well. Please, if you're going tonight, get down to the game as soon as you feasibly can. But Mikel Arteta speaking ahead of the game. Any team news? There wasn't really any team news to discuss, to be honest. Arteta was very open to saying that, everybody's fit, everybody's ready, and is available to play the game. And talk really turns to kind of the occasion. And he said 8 p.m. tomorrow night, 11 players, 60,000 people need to be really super convinced that we are ready to win and to beat them. That's the mindset that I want. The rest is to be the team that we've been over the last quarter of the season, with all the ups and downs, things that we've had to deal with. We need to continue to do that. That's our super strength. He was asked if Saka is fit enough to start, and he says he's in a much better place. Gradually, we've built in his minutes in the last 6 or 7 days. He's coped really well with that, and he's in a good place to be able to be used there tonight. Asked if it's his biggest night of management, he said 100%. It's a joy to prepare the game, to look at them, just to look at the reaction of the people and how we feel about ourselves coming into a game of this magnitude, the excitement around the club, the people. This is the stage that we want to be, and where Arsenal has to be consistently. We are very proud to be here, and now we are very ready to deliver tomorrow. Gary Cottrell said, your luck's not really been in this season. You're due a bit of luck now, and he said, I think we deserve it, but we have to earn it, and we have to earn it again tomorrow evening. We're going to put all the ingredients, everything that is in our hands to play the game that we want, to take the game in the direction that we want. In order to achieve that, we're going to need our people playing every single ball with us, and that's going to make a huge difference, because that's something that is really needed. At this stage, you need your home stadium to create a very, very special atmosphere to generate momentum. So let's go. I encourage everybody to go there tomorrow to play the game with us, not to be there watching it, but to play the game with us. And that was the theme of kind of what I wanted to ask Arteta. And I'm going to play you just the audio from the question that I asked Arteta, which was the last question of the English broadcast section. So here you go. I'm hoping this audio will come through.
I'll take you back just briefly to Eindhoven when we were watching the players warm up. It was a stadium full of people shouting for their team in a big game. Do you dream of the Emirates being a place tomorrow night where your players are just, not before they're playing, but warming up and also having that type of atmosphere?
I hope. I encourage them to come very early to the warm-up and create those nights that we haven't lived many of those at the Emirates. So that's an opportunity again. When we have built history, we have to build moments, and a moment is being built with our people. And we have to create that energy, that belief, that enthusiasm to play every single action there, because the bonus, the confidence that gives you, there is nothing else that we can replicate, that I can tell the players constantly to maintain that throughout the 95 minutes that it is going to be played.
So that was what Arteta was saying to me after I asked him about the hope, the real ambition, I think, for Arsenal to have an atmosphere tomorrow, and the opportunity, of course, to have that. And I talked about Eindhoven because I remember being in Eindhoven earlier in the season and sitting about 45 minutes or so before kickoff. I want to, away European games, I tend to go out there a little bit earlier just because, it's a stadium I've not usually been to, whether it's Girona, whether it's PSV, just to kind of sense the European atmospheres and the difference between that and England. And there is a big difference, and the atmospheres are different. And it was a huge game for PSV to be playing against Arsenal, and for us, it's a massive game to be playing against Real Madrid. So it's really important for fans to be in there, I think, as early as they can, to be in there in a position whereby they can help the most, at the best opportunity to be able to help as well, because that's going to be really, really key, I think, for us, as well. He was asked a really good question about Jurriën Timber, which I quite like, from Dutch media that were there, and kind of about his versatility and his multifunctional abilities to play multiple roles. And Arteta said, incredible. Nobody probably realised the player that we signed until he stepped through that door and started to show every quality that he has on the human side, because he's a leader. He had a really tough start, having a really difficult injury almost a year out. And then the way he's been going this season, it's just remarkable. He's in a different position with different demands, but it's always so consistent. Hopefully tomorrow he will be in the best condition to play the game. And that was Arteta. Of course, you can read the full transcript of that on the football.london website. We do our every word after every press conference, and we do a live blog during those press conferences as well, where you can keep up to date with as much of the quotes as I can type in as those presses are going on. So if you want to keep up to date with the press conferences, they're always available on the football.london website. Let's move, though, to what I think was perhaps the bigger news story in terms of kind of the news of yesterday, which was Bukayo Saka's press conference. There was a lot of talk from Saka, about the game and his excitement for it and being back and dealing with injury. He spoke about how mentally it was really important for him to have that and to be ready and to be there and to have the opportunity to play in this game. But there was always the elephant in the room with Saka that I wanted to address, which if the opportunity has arrived to be able to speak to Bukayo Saka with the same as it was for, William Saliba when I asked him about his future and his contract, I didn't want to miss up on the opportunity to ask Saka that. So here is that question and here is that answer.
We spoke to William recently. Naturally, the fans are very nervous about his contract situation. I think those same fans are very nervous about your contract situation. Could you give or say anything to help ease those nerves of the fans?
Yeah, well, for me, I want to win, and I want to win wearing this badge. So I think it's pretty clear. The fans know how much I love them, and when you saw when I came on Tuesday, I think they love me back. So it's a good relationship, and yeah, I'm really happy to be here and just focus on winning.
You seem pretty intent there in kind of where your head's at. And I was going to ask you whether that noise you heard the other night could have changed anything, but it seems that that didn't change anything. It just reaffirmed how you feel about it.
Yeah, no, it just reassured everything, and yeah, like I said, it was special. You have to be in a stadium to really understand, and feel the noise and energy that they brought that night for me. So I'm really grateful, and yeah, like I said, I just want to win here, and that's my focus now.
So yeah, that's Bukayo answering a couple of questions for myself about his future. I'm aware that those went kind of viral yesterday, and you probably saw those clips already and some of the words that he spoke yesterday. But for those that didn't, I wanted to share that with you here as well. Also, this is a really selfish thing. It's like you see those clips go viral, and you're sitting there going, oh, "I asked that. That was me." And you're like, "Little credit? No, it's not going to come. You're just going to see the clip. No one cares if you ask the question; they just care what the answer was." But still, it was a great opportunity to be able to ask Bukayo that question. And for those that did post the video with the question, of course, attached to it, I very much appreciate that. Yeah, it was certainly a really good response from Bukayo. I think that, in terms of the three players that we're looking at, him, Gabriel, Saliba, of those three, I think that, Bukayo is the one that we have the most confidence in that he will indeed sign that new deal with the club, that he will be staying with the club for the foreseeable future. There was a really good answer as well that Saka gave about saving money. He was asked about Ethan Nwaneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly. He says, "This is Arsenal. It's what we do. We've done it in the past, and I hope we continue to do it in the future so we can save money," which I thought was a very clever and amusing answer. Certainly, I can sense the morons amongst the fan base are going to use that to their advantage. But of course, for those that have got their head screwed on a little bit tighter, will know the jest that he says behind those words. I think that with Saka, we've got a player now back in the team that can help us win any game. And certainly we hope that could be tonight. And later on in the tournament, should Arsenal manage to progress past the behemoth that is, of course, Real Madrid. Final thing to discuss was, of course, Carlo Ancelotti spoke, of course, as well in the evening. It was a very busy press conference while I was at Meadow Park, or the Boreham Wood Stadium, of course, for the under-21s game. But he was asked, obviously, about Arsenal, asked about a number of different aspects of the game. And he was asked about Martin Odegaard, and he says he's very young. The talent he has now is where he had when he was 16. Then he has had the character and the courage to go out and to be one of the best in Europe. He was asked about Arteta's praise for him, and he says, I thank Arteta for what he said about me. He has taken this team to the top. He has built a complete team. There are not many in Europe. Some do things well, but there are not many complete teams like Arsenal. I wish we were complete, Carlo. Unfortunately, a lot of our players have been taken away by injury. Yeah, we've dealt with that. He was asked about more about Odegaard, and he said there was no place for him to show his quality. That's why he left, and he decided to go elsewhere for the possibility of going elsewhere to play to one of the best clubs, of course, now in the Champions League. Not only was Carlo Ancelotti there, but Thibaut Courtois also was in attendance and is expected to start for Real Madrid tomorrow. He was asked about his injuries. He says, I'm fine. I had 2 injuries, one at the beginning of the season, then I was fine, and this was a minor thing because we didn't want to take any risk before important matches. Preferred to wait to play tomorrow and not on Saturday. He was asked about Arsenal's 15 games unbeaten in Europe at the Emirates. He said, I don't know, but I don't think it changes much. It's like saying we've won 15 Champions League titles. It doesn't change anything. We know they're a strong team at home, just like Liverpool when we beat them 5-2 at home. We know there are teams who are strong at home, and Arsenal are one of them. We have to try and beat them, and the past is different. Maybe if we'd played them 15 times here, it'd be relevant, but we haven't played them here in a long time. They played very well against Man City here, for example. It's a little bit more on Arsenal. He says, we have a lot of respect for Arsenal. I have a lot of friends who are fans of Arsenal. I know they've been doing great in the Premier League. They have experienced players. Their defence is very strong on the counter as well, and on set pieces. It's difficult to play against them, and we have a lot of respect for them. I hope we can hurt them. It's going to be a game, and we want to win. It's a matter of time before they win a big trophy. And that is the feeling. And, that's a really good point. I think what Thibaut raises there at the end of that kind of interview, he says it's a matter of time before they win a big trophy, because that is the sense. It certainly is a feeling that Arsenal have underachieved, really, but not because of their own doing, more so because of what's happened to Arsenal over the last couple of years, particularly with decisions and injuries and things that have cost us in big matches and big moments. And I think the feeling is amongst the broader, those that are in the game, those that know the game, that it is a matter of time, really, until Arsenal pick up that trophy. But we're going to go to part 2 now and a little preview of the game against Real Madrid right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show where on a match day, we look ahead to today's game, which is, of course, against Real Madrid. Los Blancos coming to the Emirates. How do we set up? How would I set up the team? What would you do differently to me? This is where you get the opportunity to tell me. This is the team that I've gone for. David Raya in goal, Jurriën Timber at right back, Ben White in the middle with William Saliba, Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, Thomas Partey at defensive midfield, Declan Rice in the left 8, Odegaard in the right 8, Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left, and Mikel Merino as the centre forward or false 9 or whatever role we describe Mikel Merino these days. Let me know if you've got any differences or changes that you would make. Would you play Trossard? Would you play him instead of Martinelli? Would you play him instead of Merino? Would you play Kivior here? Would you bring one of those 2 right-side defenders out and put Kivior in to play a more natural left-sided centre-half role? Would anybody else make your team? I'd be curious to know what you think. But I think we've got a good chance maybe of seeing Timber and White together. He was asked by media yesterday whether or not he's decided how he's going to replace Gabriel in this game, and he had indeed said that he had decided what he was going to do already. He was very sure about that, about what he would do. And so it seems that we will see a decision that he has made quite some time ago as to who is going to start this game. But this is what I'd go for. Maybe some people would change the centre forward. I know I was speaking to Harry yesterday. Of course, make sure you subscribe to the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast if you haven't done so already. I actually recorded this show for today at the training centre yesterday. So make sure after you've watched this show, you go over to Harry's channel and give that a watch and a subscribe and a like and all that usual YouTube-y stuff. But we disagreed actually on the striker. I think he'd rather see Leandro Trossard play at centre forward tomorrow. For me, I'd go for Merino. I think the reason why I'd go for Merino is I think that, just in terms of what I'd use here, that is I'd use Mikel Merino as the kind of target man for the Martinellis and Sakas to play off. That move that we did against Fulham, and what we did against Fulham, I thought was excellent in those final third plays. And Merino was a big part of that at times. I think he's gradually grown into the role. I think he's improved a hell of a lot since the first game that he played for us in that position. And gradually he's gone from doing just more than a job to doing a good job in that position. And And of course, I'd love it to be Thierry Henry like it was 19 years ago. And maybe next season in this scenario, we'll have a version of a brand new striker in this position for a game of this magnitude. But we have to use what we've got right now. And I'd like to have something coming off the bench. And I think Trossard offers that. I think Waneri offers that, of course, as well. There's opportunities to change things. There's opportunities to bring players on. Arteta will be very keen to point out the fact that this is only the first leg. And at full time in this game, it is only half time in the war. We may win this battle, but it's the war that we want to win in total. And that will be, I think, determining what type of subs we do make towards the end of this game. But we just need to not make the mistakes that we made in the game last year when we played against Bayern Munich. You know, we were too costly. We were too frivolous with the ball in possession at times. We gave them opportunities we shouldn't have given them. And we were wasteful with the chances that we created for ourselves. And we need to be better at taking those opportunities. So that's the key point here. I've baited Clive into a response, and I'm happy to say that let's have a look at the end of my fishing rod here. Let's reel him in. Get him right. There he is. There he is. We've got Clive. We've got Clive on the rod. And he says, Moreno's doing a great job. Okay, good job. Yeah, listen. Good job. He wasn't at the start. He's improved gradually, and, you know, he was doing a job. And I think now, you know, after his performance against Fulham, his performance, of course, I think... what was the other game as well? What was the other game? I'm completely forgetting about. There was one other game that he did, and he was good. He was really good. Chelsea, of course, Chelsea. I think it was good in the Chelsea game. It's improved things, and you know, I'm all for eating humble pie, Clive. You know this, perhaps even more so than yourself at times. But his record's very good. His record's been good as a centre forward. It's been better than what I think people would have expected. Of Moreno, to be honest, but that's who I'd go for in this game. But to get some of your thoughts on what you would go for, Amberley says, I think I'd give Kivior a chance. White still looks way off it and probably can't play a full 90. David says, respectfully, how did you watch that Ben White performance on Saturday and think, yeah, let's start him against Real Madrid? Because it's not at right back, David, respectfully. It's in the centre half role. He's not having to use as much of the, you know, the athleticism that he's going to have to use were he playing at right back. And I actually thought he had a decent game. I don't know why you're so down on that performance. I think he did some good things, actually. I just have a more belief in Ben White's ability than I do Kivior. But it wouldn't surprise me if Kivior played there. And I'd back him. You know, I really hope that Kivior does indeed succeed greatly, you know, if he is chosen, because that would be great to see happen. Akintobi says, I don't think White is up to speed enough to start the game. I believe Kivior's man of the match performance against Everton would stand him in good stead. He really did himself some favours with that performance. Josh says, to be fair, he scored as many goals as we would have expected from Ollie. From Ollie? Who's Ollie? Rand says, I'm not very optimistic regarding this game, but Ian Wright on the Arscast said, believe. So I believe Arsenal win 2-0, Moreno and Ødegaard. I was interviewed by Spanish TV yesterday, and I may have said that we might win 2-0. I think the copium really overtook me in that moment because I think one of the questions I was asked was like, the Spanish kind of, it said something like that, football fans in Spain don't really rate Arsenal in this game. And I think that might have bit me a bit. And I was like, stuff it. Let's go for an Arsenal win. That might have done it. Oh, Watkins. Sorry. Yes, Watkins. I was like, who's Ollie? I didn't realize that you were on first name basis with him. So it really took me by left field that. But yes, has he scored as many goals as Ollie Watkins would have scored? I think that's maybe harsh on Watkins. I think Watkins probably would have scored a few more. Maybe. I don't know. But I think he's done as well as he probably could have been expected, maybe a bit more than he would have done. Justin, thank you so much for becoming a brand new member of the channel. Really appreciate your kind support. Welcome to the TGT family. Right, let's use that to go to part 3, your questions and more, right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show where we're going to be tackling some of your questions. So if you've got questions to throw into the chat box, now is the time to do that. Use a capital Q. It really does help them stand out. So please go forth and drop them into the chat now. or forever hold your peace. Tizer says, having watched Madrid this season, the front three do not track back and will attack on the counter. Hence the reason why I think their manager wants us to attack this evening. We can't overcommit tonight. That was going to be the other question I was going to ask Arteta if I had the opportunity to ask too. I didn't. It was very quick and it was very busy. And I really wanted to ask a question about the atmosphere, so I went with that. But the other question would have been on that point from Carlo, which was Carlo basically said that, his feeling is that Arsenal being more offensive will help Real Madrid. Are you prepared for that type of thing? But unfortunately, I had the opportunity to ask that question. But that is certainly something I am, Tizer, equally as wary of going into this game. Paul says, we rarely concede 2 or more goals in a game. If we can score and lead, we can definitely defend it. I think we can. I think you could see Arsenal potentially doing this and getting a good result. Some predictions are already flying. Maham says 3-1. Loga says 3-2. Bavin says 3-1 as well. I'm loving this optimism. Hoodie Gooner says, do you wish you went as a fan tonight instead? It's going to be something special. No. And the reason why not is because I'm not a season ticket holder. I've never been a season ticket holder. I've never been able to get a season ticket. So realistically, this is my pathway to be able to go to amazing games like this. It's not going to happen as a sport. It's very closed off to fans that don't have access to that. I've been able to access tickets in the past through, very fortuitous means previously, transfers and ticket exchanges and stuff like that and getting lucky. But it's just an honor to be able to cover this game, to work this game. This is, this is the biggest night of my career, I feel like, and it's an amazing thing to be able to cover and write about and do. So no, I don't. This is my pathway, mate, and I'm very appreciative for this pathway existing. Adrian says it's my birthday today. I'm going to the game today. First Champions League match. What a Champions League match to be your first one. That's mad. And was lucky in the ballot, hoping that we put on a great performance and get the win as well. I'm hoping that Adrian, you and others in the stadium put on a great performance for the team. I really hope that this is going to be an amazing atmosphere. I really, really do. Amaral Gooner says, as much as I hate to say it, I think that we'll be outclassed. I'll be here tomorrow hoping to be eating humble pie. Ashley says, it's a pity Ben White can't play left centre-half from striker position. Mbappe will drift left-sided naturally to form a partnership with Vinny. The two to best deal with that would be Saliba and Timber. It's a fair point. Mark says, I'm so hopeful that we'll go to Madrid with a 2-goal lead. I wish I could also say I was optimistic. Absolutely. Blackshine says 2-2. Kirill says 2-0 Arsenal. Shaq's going for a 1-1. David's taking a 0-0. Barry says 2-0. Peter says 2-0 to the Arsenal as well. Daryl says 4-2 Arsenal. And Hoodie Gunner appreciates that answer about the pathway. Absolutely. You got to appreciate what pathway you're on. You don't wish for what you don't have. Appreciate what you do have. So, yeah, 100%. And says, what's the biggest game I attended when I was a fan? It's a good question. I mean, in terms of like magnitude, I didn't manage to get to finals like as a supporter, things like that. Just individual games. The one that sticks in my mind the most is when we beat Liverpool 4-1. Do you remember the goals from like Hector Bellerin, Alexis Sanchez, Ozil, Giroud? That game was great. I loved that game. It sticks in memory. It's a very, very happy memory indeed. So a couple of North London derbies that I'd been to as well. That was just great feeling to see the Arsenal team win those games. But yeah, not like it's since breaking into kind of this career pathway, it's been more so the bigger games have been working rather than going as a fan. I got to Arsenal kind of games very late in my life. I didn't get my first game until I was 18 or 17, 18. Just before my 18th birthday, I think it was my first game. My parents didn't earn enough to get tickets, when I was younger, and I didn't get to go to games because they would pay for me to go to an Arsenal game, and it wasn't until I was close to 18 that we managed to go to one. It was a League Cup game against Coventry. We won 5-1, 6-1, I think it was on the day. So yeah, and it's only been a few years after that I actually entered this specific career. So it's I haven't had too much of a period, and in that period, Arsenal weren't particularly successful. So it's very, very different these past 5 years. Vanna Duty says, what has happened to Raya on penalties from having confidence in him? He seems to be going far too early. I would have expected the goalkeeping coach to have worked on it beforehand. It's not the first time. Yeah, I'm concerned about it as well. You're not the only one. Akintobi says, I love Miles Lewis-Skelly, but we have conceded a few goals and had some issues from his side, like Liverpool equalised at the Emirates, Everton equalised, the West Ham red card. Do you think we should start Tierney? No, I don't. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly should 100% start. Yes, there's risks with it, but there's risk with Tierney. Tierney equally is much more of an offensive-minded fullback than a defensive one. So you can have the same kind of issues. I don't think this is a game for Tierney at all. Maybe from the bench, but only from the bench. Brian says, I would go with the same lineup as Tom, but I'd sub out White on the 60th and 70th minute, but move Partey to right back and drop Rice into the 6, and then Moreno drops into the 8 and bring Trossard at centre forward. Yeah, we kind of saw that, didn't we, against Everton, I think, didn't we? I think we saw that situation. No, against Fulham, sorry, we saw that happen last week. Joel says, I've got the queasy feeling that it's going to be a mauling either way around. What would you rather, a solid performance and a draw, or a high-scoring win, mate? Are you mad? High-scoring win for Arsenal, please, all day long. But yeah, that brings us to the end of today's show. I could carry on talking about this game for a long, long time, but I'd rather just get into the zone of the build-up, to be honest. There's plenty of content for you guys and girls to enjoy and absorb before this game. And I will end this, as I said yesterday. If you are going to this game, if you are listening and you are going to this game, please get there early. Please be in your seat early. Sacrifice an extra pint to get into that seat and make as much noise as you can. Not during just the game, but when those players are just warming up. Give them that support. If you want them to win this game with everything that you have, then show that to your absolute maximum. Please, 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 please get in your seat and do your absolute best, because this team are going to need it. That's everything for today. That's all she wrote. I'm hoping it's going to be an amazing night. I really, really hope it is. Tomorrow we will be talking about it in detail, whether we've won, whether we've lost, whether it's a stalemate and it goes to the second leg. I just hope it goes to the second leg and it's still very much on. But it's going to be a very, very, very interesting and brilliant evening of football. Thank you for listening. This is why we do this. For moments like this, for games like this. Thank you. And I will be with you tomorrow morning to break this down and to talk about it in all of its glory. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gooners.